Good morning. I believe today is April 11th, Saturday. Um, this is my Aunt Opal and my Grandmom Conley and myself at Mayport Naval Air Station in August of 67. Using my diary, the encounter with Bundy was June 3rd, and now I know why. See the little red t-shirt with the white collar? That was like a beach thing I got at a Woolworths in Daytona Beach in June. By using my diary, I'm able to ascertain that after we ran into Ted Bundy at Jeb Stuart Junior High School in June of 67, my family, we went immediately to Daytona. And I remember in my mind kind of thinking, uh, you better ride with Vicky, Debbie. The next week, you better ride with Vicky. You don't want to run into that weirdo again. Because what had happened is we went to summer band and I extrapolated, why was I wearing my brother's Gant shirt and the stupid polyester pull-on that Debbie was dressed to the hilt. She was more mature than me, even though I was a few months older. I was 12 years, 9 months. She was 12 years, 7 months. She was born in November of 54, and I was born in September of 54. The little fedora hat, got in Daytona. The red t-shirt with the white collar, Daytona. How could it be? I was taking summer band reluctantly with Debbie, and I had a clarinet. We walked up to summer band. We took the class. At some point, Debbie went out. She was full tilt summer. She had a peasant top. She was called Jugs. She had Hager jeans that were frayed, and I believe she was wearing some Huaraches or sandal, which were cutting her feet. Now, after the class was over, she stopped at the bleachers in front of the school over by the baseball field. And I wanted to go home, obviously. If I did have some nice summer clothes, they would have been already packed away. I mostly had school clothes, but if I had some decent summer checkered halter top or whatever, my mom had already packed them away. I didn't have them available to go to summer band. So I wore my brother's Gant shirt, probably looked like Rasputin a little bit. Okay, I'm over there sticking my thumb out because Debbie needs a ride. She stopped at the bleachers, and I'm thinking, why are we? I want to go home because we're getting ready to go to Daytona for a week, which was more important to me than summer band, by the way. We were headed to eighth grade. I think it was seventh to eighth grade. And for some reason, she stopped. And I remember doing something with her hands, and it seemed like she was facing the school. And then rather than facing the direction towards Westconnett where we were going to be going, it seemed that way. I don't remember. This red Volkswagen came by. I said, hey, naked, because I'm over there. I said, I'll try to hitchhike. And then I got leery of it because I saw a big green car with fishtails and the Mock family who was pretty stern. I said, you know what, I'm going to get in trouble for doing this. So I started walking back. I never hitchhiked before in my life. I walked back across, and this Volkswagen pulled right up to where Debbie was at the bleachers. Didn't stop for me, went right to where Debbie was. And then you know the rest of the story. Debbie said, get in. She talked to him quietly from the passenger side, and I stood to the rear passenger side, and I think at points she went from side to side, and she was talking to him. I couldn't hear the conversation. And then she says, get in. And I'm thinking, this guy's older than even the older guys. The older guys to us would have been 16 or 18. This guy was 20 to 22 years of age. And I said, no, it's just pretend. We're just pretending. So apparently my father had taken 2 vacations that year, 1 week to take us to Daytona to Rip Van Winkle, and then later in the summer when his family visited, we went to things around Jacksonville. But anyway, so we get in the car. She pulls that latch thing down forward and says, get in. And I said, no, it's just pretend. No, it's just pretend. And then we get in. He circles the baseball field, gets to Lamoille, turns left at Lamoille, stops at Westconnett, facing that field, which at that time was a cow pasture. It wasn't Kmart. It wasn't Amazon. It was a cow field. And he pulled a revolver. Yes, a revolver, Mr. Sullivan, a silvery revolver. And I said, what is your name? He said, Theodore. And I said, Theodore? Anyway. Then I said, what is your last name? And he said, Bundy. And I said, your name is Bundy like my clarinet, and your gun is silver like Debbie's flute. Debbie's father's an admiral at NASA. I said, Debbie's father's an admiral at NASA. You ought to meet Vicky and Jeannie. They're so pretty and already out on their own. You know, which Vicky wasn't out on her own. Jeannie was only halfway out, and she worked at a Bell company, Southern Bell, on Montrose Street. Okay. And then I said, if you're looking for girls, you need to go to the high school. And I just chattered on, and Debbie had become completely silent with that gun up facing the ceiling. The ceiling of the Volkswagen was white and had little peg holes. Okay, thank you. 1967. Bundy was 20 years old, and he was supposed to be in California shortly. He wasn't there yet. He traveled across the nation. How he got the Volkswagen, it looked like a white tag with black lettering, 6 digits across and a black border. But I've looked at the Washington tags that year. Their green was so dark that in the bright sunlight it would have looked black. Because I saw it. I noticed things. The bumper was solid. It did not have that black strip. Okay, it was a solid chrome bumper, bright red, shiny. Volkswagens were not that common in 1967. He was wearing shorts, like a coach. All right, thank you.